Hello and welcome to the Just Another Castle podcast. I'm your host, Matt, and with me this week are...
Me, Eli, +1 on my gen.
And our special guest...
I am Harsh.
Cool.
Ooh.
So, Harsh is... I guess I should have let you explain yourself. Harsh is part of the MyAGN community and also a game developer, and I'll let him explain, just give him himself a little bit of intro himself.
Okay. Boy, I'm important today. Okay, so my name is Harsh. I'm a game developer right now, and what I do in game development is I generally handle everything except the coding and the music. Everything else I kind of have a hand in, and since we are a very small independent team where I currently work, just 2 people. So with that, I'm kind of working on my first game that's supposed to be releasing at some point this year. We'll see how it goes. And a bit of gaming and stuff. I still play games and all that. None of that. What else? I moonlight as a writer sometimes. I've done written work for stuff, fiction, non-fiction. I haven't really found success to the point to kind of make a distinction. Oh no, I write articles on the internet, or I write stories and stuff. So I kind of do everything right now. And that's really it. That's all I am.
Okay, cool. So you said you're a game developer. Is this something you do on the weekends, or are you getting money in from somewhere?
We are doing this kind of our own savings, and some of the other stuff we got as grants and prizes. I'm not doing this on the weekend though. I went to college for game development and stuff, so I'm done with that now, and I'm kind of working on my first game, and that's really it. It's kind of my full-time gig right now.
Cool. Yeah, I saw a bit of your game on one of your blogs, and I was just because there were 2 people, I wasn't sure if it was just you work on. You go to a job one day during the week and then you do it on the weekends, or if you actually got money. But no, that's really cool to hear. You got money for it.
And this money really isn't. I didn't get a grant for it or anything. We might start with something like a Kickstarter or something later down the line, and that amount won't be really huge, pretty small. But we are kind of making this off of the basic amount of money we got off of contests we were in or things that we won, stuff like that. And generally, the game has been pretty cheap to make since all of the software now is almost free. I had license for Photoshop, which I think that's the only paid software that we had. Yeah. And then everything else was pretty much free, like Blender, Unity, which it's just great now because back in the day you had to pay excessive licenses, and now it's not the case.
Yeah, it's insane how many licenses you would have to buy before, and they're not cheap licenses either, so...
Google Photoshop license, and then you'll see what we're saying.
Little tangent. When I was in college, now I feel like an old man. When I was in college, even though it was only a year, it was only a year ago that I graduated. But our final year, so we had CS5 for the last couple of years, or CS 5.5 or whatever, and CS6 was out for a little bit, but it came out during a time where we weren't getting our new licenses, so we were just stuck with 5.5. And when we started the new school year, Creative Cloud was coming out, and our program leader or whatever was like, "Oh, here, everyone gets a free license." We're like, "Okay," and we're like, "Oh, it's to Creative Cloud. This only lasts a year. What happened to CS6? Because if we use this stupid license now, it's going to be done by the time we finish graduating, and that's not really helpful when you're trying to look for a job. You probably need some of these licenses at least." And everyone got kind of pissed, and we didn't really riot, but we got angry enough to the point where the teachers are like, "Fine, just email us. We'll give you CS6. Calm down." But I thought it was really I was kind of pissed at Adobe. I'm like, "What are you trying to pull here? You're going to give us these licenses for a year, and then when we graduate, we're going to have to buy them again." No. You're giving us that other license, you jerk. I'm not paying for this. Jeez.
It's kind of funny with the amount of money that colleges require for you to kind of get in and stay there, the amount, and then they kind of skimp out on stuff. You can't print more than 5 pages at a time. You can't have this license when you leave. Stuff like that.
Oh, it's nice that you guys get 5 pages.
You print?
Yeah,
What is this paper?
Oh, I'm just gonna go in there and print this. Oh boy.
We didn't even get free pages. We had to pay like 10 a dime for each page. You had to like load up a card.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I didn't have to pay up until the 5-page point. After that, it was fairly cheap. Wasn't that expensive even?
You're
Like, keep in
spoiled.
mind, these are no, these are like black and white pages, not the
Yeah.
colorful.
Are we? Yeah, my university whatever charges 20,000 a year, and then my God can't even get me free printing or whatever.
Yes, college is ridiculous. I guess quickly before we move on, did you want to explain a little bit about your game?
My game? Okay. So this is the only plug I'll make here. I generally don't like making too many plugs, but
Feel free to. We plug
my
our
game-
stuff at the end anyway, so.
no, I kind of get annoyed when people plug their stuff in the end of podcasts like 5 times. I'm like, I'm specifically gonna avoid your product because of
Okay.
that. Now, basically, I'm making a game which is a independent city builder, and it's been made by 2 guys. And here's the cool part: we've never really met each other. I'm working with Lance, and you might know him, Professor Smash.
Yeah.
He's another my age junior. He's a coder, great guy. So I'm working with him, and the game is almost to the point where we're kind of going to approach publishers soon to kind of get it out there. Hopefully, because I'm delayed for a few times now. But it's a city builder, and it's an isometric perspective. And the idea of the city builder is to kind of go inside the psyche of the city itself. It's kind of like a theory that cities kind of react differently to events and how it changes. For example, if say a city won a huge sports tournament, the excitement and the happiness when the team returns, that's going to be quite high. That city is going to be pretty darn happy. Now, if that city has had something bad happen to it, say, let's just say your sports team lost in like literally the worst kind of a way. Generally, people are going to be like, "Oh, fuck this place, man! I don't like this." Or maybe if your city's just kind of been the butt of a joke. So it's basically that kind of thing, like kind of bringing the personality of the city into the game itself. It's going to be coming out on PC. It's definitely going to be an independent release, and we'll see how it sells, and then we'll kind of move from there. This is our first commercial release, I think. Why do I say I think? This is our first commercial release.
Cool. So is the goal to have like a certain happiness level in the city, or by a certain time or something like that?
That is a part of it, but then you also have the fact that what do they need? If they are maybe, say, let's go with the sports team analogy. Mm-hmm. If the sports team really fucked up, maybe they want, hey, better fire those players, fire that coach, get some new players, train them better. We better fucking win it next time. So the gameplay itself, like the kind of buildings they demand, depend upon what they think and want. So that's kind of interesting. It's kind of like we wanted it to play into the gameplay.
Mm.
Okay, cool. So now we'll get on to what we've been playing. I haven't been playing too much. I keep saying that every time. I really should stop. It's my stupid catchphrase at this point. But I've been playing a bit of Freedom Planet, and man, that game is surprisingly hard. So this game was originally developed as either a Sonic clone or remake or something. Basically, they were trying to remake a Sonic game in some form. And then I guess they got to a point where they're like, hey, what the heck? Why are we remaking this? Why don't we just spin it off into our own title and actually make money off of it, which is pretty smart. So it runs off of basically a Sonic engine, and it plays kind of like that. So the levels are very reminiscent of the first early 3 Sonic games, which is pretty cool. But the bosses are pretty freaking hard. I think I'm at the second boss or something, and I'm stuck on it, maybe the third one, but there's like a small window of error that you can make before you just get killed, because the phases are pretty long, and you don't have a ton of health, and there's only so many ways to like move out of the way and whatnot, so I don't know if you guys played it, but if you want something with hard bosses that plays like Sonic, pick it up because it kicked
Pretty
my
much
ass.
a Sonic game.
Yeah. It's just a lot harder bosses.
I think I only played through the first world. I didn't get any farther in the game.
Yeah, I think I'm going to give up after the second. I'm like, because I'll get all the way, it'll take like, I don't know how long to get to the boss, and then I'll spend so much time with the boss, and then I'm like, you know what? I don't really want to feel like playing this 20 to 30 times in a row. So, yeah, and it doesn't save at the boss. If you were to exit, you have to replay like the half an hour up to it, and it's just kind of draining to the point where it's like, yeah, maybe I'll try a different game on my Humble Bundle list that I haven't downloaded. Harsh, I don't know if you've had any free time to play anything, but have you been playing anything recently?
Actually, I did play a few games. Have you guys played Stardew Valley?
Starting Rally? No, I can't say.
Stardew Valley.
Stardew Valley. Sorry. I haven't, but I've heard of it.
It's surprisingly good for a game created by one guy. And surprisingly good, it sounds like I wasn't expecting it to be good, but it's really good. For the asking price, I definitely think you should get it. Now, the game itself is it's really, really fun when you start it. After like maybe 30 hours, which is anyways way more time than anybody ever spends on independent games. After 30 years, it kind of gets like a very chore-ish kind of a thing. Like you have to, I have to work now, I have to do this now. It's the fun is kind of lost later down the line, but for what it's worth, pretty solid game. And especially for if you really like something like Harvest Moon, you'll really, really enjoy this.
Yeah, it's crazy that a one-man team can make something as involved as a Harvest Moon game.
And it's funny because the game is tight codingly. Wise, like the code and everything, I don't think I've encountered bugs in this game. And then the art and like really everything kind of is on point. You don't really see a shortfall. And I just played this as a game developer. I just think, good God, why are you so talented?
And how can I get you?
How can I get you?
Yeah.
Great game. Pick it up. Also, I just kind of bought Factorio. Played it maybe half an hour. All right game. I don't see myself playing it a lot longer though.
Yeah.
But those are the two games I played like over the past month or so.
Cool. And Eli, you've been playing Tokyo Mirage Sessions recently, as far as I've seen. And crap, yeah, you're still out. I will say I saw the trailer of your game, and the way you're describing it kind of reminds me of Roller Coaster Tycoon, where you have people who are pissed off and people who are happy, and you can do stuff to mess around with them. You're like, I'm just going to remove this thing, and all your happiness is going to be gone, just because I feel like being a dick.
I got compared to Roller Coaster Tycoon, and I think you just made my evening.
It's, if it's anything close to that, I'm sure you'll find a lot of people to play it with, or a lot of people to pick it up.
Roller Coaster Tycoon deserves every cult backing it has. Great game. That game defined most of our childhoods, in my school at least.
Yeah, it was amazing. I think the only thing that they needed was a first-person perspective on roller coasters, which I'm not sure if they had in one of the later versions or not.
They should return a VR version of this, make a roller coaster, and then have a VR first person in it.
Yeah.
I can see that selling.
That'd be amazing.
Oh, boy.
Sorry about that.
So, Eli, you've been playing Tokyo Mirage Sessions this week?
Yeah, well, I've actually played two games. So first of all, I played Tokyo Mirage Sessions. My review for that went up on Nintendo Enthusiast. I gave it a 9. I think this is the first time when people were actually mad at me that I scored a game too high. Guess you can't please everyone. And it's really good. It's like a Persona game pretty much on the Wii U. The story can be a little bit excessive at times. But other than that, I don't know. It's got a really cool battle system whenever, there are type weaknesses and stuff, just like in other Persona games, like in Pokemon, I guess. And if you match up correctly, like fire is good against ice, or ice is good against fire, whatever, it starts this thing called a session, which is like a combo. And all your other characters will be able to do special attacks without using up any of their magic meter, which is really cool. The dungeon design is good. There are puzzles and stuff. Bosses are really hard. I remember I fought one boss for over an hour straight, and that was without me dying, like an hour straight.
Were you on like the edge of dying and had to keep like refilling your health?
Well, that had happened too, but it wasn't like the boss wasn't particularly hard. Its health bar was just ridiculous. This particular one that.
So it's a Final Fantasy problem where it's like 10 times longer than it needs to be just to pad it out.
Yeah. I mean, so other bosses aren't as bad. But overall, I think the game is really, really good. Some people are throwing a hissy fit because of the censorship. Nintendo changed some stuff when localizing it. Honestly, I really couldn't give less shits, and I think 95% of people don't care. But the 5% of people that do care are being pretty pissy about it and saying how the game deserves like a 0 out of 10 because, a hot spring scene where all the characters are half naked was cut out. Wow, I'm sure you're missing so much of riveting gameplay there.
Well, there are the costumes there too as well.
Yeah.
I think it's more of a... I'm with you that I don't care, like I wouldn't stop me from playing a game, but it still seems stupidly unnecessary. It's like, okay, well, what was the point of that? Especially when you're not marketing like a niche game. It's like, really, who your target audience is. Like, don't go pissing them off when you're.
I don't know. Cost benefit analysis. I mean, I kind of get it. It's one of those things where like, if a company's releasing a game, and I get like I don't care, you do what you want, Nintendo. But if they're releasing a game and there's a chance that there might be an uproar because of something, it's just better to avoid the uproar. And honestly, the uproar over the censorship won't damper sales. Maybe 1,000 people won't buy the game. Like, okay.
But was that 1,000 people that were the only 1,000 people that were going to buy it?
Touche. I mean, Nintendo already decided to screw itself up the butt when it named the game Tokyo Mirage Sessions instead of Persona, and didn't market the Final Fantasy aspect. I mean, the Fire Emblem aspect of it at all, and just screwed up big time everywhere in terms of marketing. I don't know.
Yeah. There are more problems than that going for it.
Yeah, exactly. So there's that. I also played Mirror's Edge Catalyst.
Okay.
Because I saw it on sale for $40, and with my Gamers Club Unlocked, I got it for $32. And then the trade-in value was $27, but with Gamers Club Unlocked, I get an extra 10% back. So I went ahead and I'm like, all right, if I beat this game in a week, I'll get back $30 out of $32. So I went ahead and I did. I beat it in a week. I traded in yesterday for $30 back. Unfortunately, although the game only cost me like $2 to play through, it did waste 8 hours of my time. That game is not good.
Really?
The combat. What were you saying?
No, I think that's the first time I've heard it being said is not good. And because everybody I've kind of heard said like it's been pretty good. I don't care about Mirror's Edge. It gives me fucking it spins my head. I can't play that game. And that's simply because I get motion sickness. That's the only reason. I'm pretty sure it's a good game. But that's why isn't it a good game? I haven't really looked into why they like it though.
I mean, I gotta kind of agree with some of the reviews out there. First of all, the combat is like terrible. Like terrible. You'll be running and all of a sudden it's like, all right, here's 6 enemies to defeat. And you're like, why the hell do I have to defeat these 6 enemies? This game's about running and about parkour. Why am I fighting people? And it's slow and it's clunky and it sucks.
Do they force you to fight them, or is there a way for you to run? Oh, okay, that's stupid then.
Which sucked. There was also just it was very bland. It wasn't interesting to run through the city. And part of it's kind of the story, why everything's so gray and white and stuff. But the end of the game looks the same as the beginning of the game. It's not it's creatively there's a creative deficit there. It's all nice and stuff to run from one building to another, and it feels good when you're really going at it. But the other times, when either you get stuck in combat or just for a long stretch of time, you're like, wow, this is really white and this doesn't look any different at all. And this feels the same as I was playing 10 hours ago. So it's just not that great of a game. I think I'd give it a solid 5 if I had to rate it, or a 6.
That's unfortunate. I mean, I didn't think the first one was ecstatic. I had
I liked
decent enjoyment out of it, but I was kind of hoping that for this one as well.
The first game, I think it was kind of just split into people who couldn't care about it and then people who really loved it. And the ones who loved it really loved it. They brandished, hey, we want a next game. I've played this game 10 times already. And more power to them. But I tried to play it and I just kind of got motion sick. And that's never really happened to me before. So I just stopped playing because of that, because I was getting kind of nauseous. But yeah, I don't think this game did very well in sales either. Everything is pointing to it didn't really do really well in sales.
What?
He was talking about how well it did sales-wise. Do you have any idea?
No, well, the game came out, I think, the beginning of this month. So, no, we won't know until July.
Yeah.
It didn't help that apparently EA didn't even bring it up in their conference either.
No, I mean, I think they knew the game wasn't that great. The reviews weren't that great. I think the average on Metacritic's a 65 or something. They knew the game wasn't that great. And there's some people that, I feel like they're the outspoken ones that want to like a bad game, and so they scream about how great Mirror's Edge is, but Catalyst is
That's too bad.
Thoroughly meaty.
This might just be yeah. This might just be the last game in this franchise. Then the first one
has one reboots itself.
No, I mean, but speaking honestly,
yeah.
The game wouldn't be $32 2 weeks after launch if it wasn't good. If it wasn't not as good as you'd want it to be, or B, doing as well in sales as you want it to be. The fact that I got it for $32 2 weeks from after it launched means that game's in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
On the flip side, I remember Portal 2, 2 weeks after it came out, it dropped down to $40. I mean, that's Valve, so
I remember
that. It was still weird because I was working at Rogers, so a video game rental store, and I wanted to rent it, and one of the other employees kept renting it out. I'm like, you jerk, I want to play it. And then it went down $20. I'm like, oh, well, I guess I'll just buy it now. But I guess... sorry, go on.
Oh, no. Okay. Both of the Portal games are pretty excellent for what they are. And the funny bit is, I think the second one, when I went to buy it, it was already cut in price. It didn't cost the entire amount. And a really great game. Both of them are really, really great. If you want to go into game design, I was recommended this by another game designer many years ago. He said, play that game and see how amazingly genius. It's completely genius, both of the games. You should play it. Definitely play it.
Yeah, they're amazing. So we'll move on now. Before we get into talking, just wanted to say Devil's Third Wii U multiplayer is closing December 28th. So if anyone is playing that game, probably not, but I figured I'll bring it up anyway as a public service.
I'm sure that game made about $40 for them. Maybe.
Yeah. Flea probably bought 2 copies. So there's $80. But yeah, they're closing that because that's not doing too well. Not surprisingly. It didn't score well critically, and it doesn't look all that interesting. But moving on. So last week, Reggie was talking, made a statement that he made right before the Wii U launched, where he says, oh, this system is about content, not about specs. And that kind of muffled a bunch of people. So Harsh wanted to come on and talk about the NX and what he kind of wants from it from a developer's perspective, and then we'll all interact and discuss. So, Harsh, why don't you take it away for a bit?
Okay, sure. So I think he said something along the lines of when they asked what are the specs with the Neo and Scorpio coming out, I think, and he just went, we don't care about the specs, we care about content. The specs is for Sony and Microsoft to fight over in the Red Sea, something like that. And that really seems like a dodgy, softened blow to say, look, it's not going to be powerful here. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, is going to be a big back problem for Nintendo going forward, because think about it, a lot of the games that you played for like early Nintendo systems, the really successful ones, I'm talking like NES, Super Nintendo systems like that, a lot of the games there, and pretty good ones too, came from third parties. I think it's just when people say that, third party isn't really necessary on Nintendo, they don't really take into account that there's only so much a company can do for creating first-party stuff. There's only so much they can do. And granted, Nintendo's been creating pretty slick games recently, but Star Fox, that game did not look to me that it was going to fail. It did not look to me that it was going to get a bad review. It was made by Platinum and Shigeru Miyamoto. I'm like, this is not going to be bad. I couldn't think about it going bad. And I don't think it did really well in the reviews and stuff, right?
No, it did not. It game bombed.
I didn't look too much into why it bombed, but things like that. There's only so, and there's going to be definite pitfalls. Nintendo generally pushes out good games, but there's definitely going to be some pitfalls there. Now, generally, you should appease third parties just for the fact that you will get other systems on your system, and basically what that does is, so I'm a Nintendo fan, and I want to play Nintendo games, but hey, look, Sony has the Sony games, and it has all of the third-party support, and the same goes for Microsoft, really. You're kind of competing with consoles that have a huge library, and they'll keep getting a bigger library depending on the fact that not 2 or 3 internal teams are working on it. There's several hundred teams working on different games for both of those systems. And just in the content-wise way, you're going to fail in that regard. The other argument I've kind of heard about this is, well, go ahead. What do you think about this point of mine? I'll bring up the others later.
I mean, I think you're right about the third party point. I don't think that that the strength of the hardware is the most important thing for third parties. I mean, excuse me. If you look at two things, first of all, if you look at the Wii U, which actually got third party support at the beginning of its lifespan, even though it was the weaker console. And then number two, the fact that although Scorpio and Neo are coming out, all the games will continue to work on the original PS4 and Xbox One. I think it's pretty clear that specs shouldn't necessarily be number one priority in terms – like having higher specs don't necessarily mean you're going to get third-party support. And although I agree with the stance on third-party games that, you know, Nintendo can't support itself. I've been saying that for years. But I think that it's not going to be so much important how powerful the console is as how actively Nintendo goes out and gets these third parties to come and make games for their system. Because if the money's there, third parties will come no matter what the specs of the system are. They'll make it work.
I don't know if that's entirely true because the Wii sold like hotcakes, and some developers did try to make some things like Dead Space Extraction and some other games on it, but for the most part, like third parties avoided it, even though it did. Sell well.
First of all, there were some excellent third party exclusives on the Wii U. You know, Red Steel, you got No More Heroes and stuff like that. Mad World. But aside from that, the Wii was fundamentally could not run the games that were on the Xbox One and PS3. Whereas, now that these third parties still have to support the original Xbox One and PS4, they can't just lose them moving up to the Neo and Scorpio. Neo and Scorpio. And then the other thing is, things can always look better, but there's an argument to be made that the extra processing power on these new systems won't necessarily you don't necessarily need to have better hardware to make these games run. You can always scale back graphically to make them run. There's no reason why you can't put any sort of PS4 game on a Wii U if you were to downgrade how good it looks. It's not – there's not I mean, Harsh could probably speak to this as a developer, but there was a fundamental reason why Xbox 360 and PS3 games couldn't run on a Wii. I think that you could take any single PS4 game with enough money and put it on a Wii U. I think it would work. And we saw that at the beginning of the life cycle with games like Watch Dogs, which did come to the PS4 and the Wii U.
But see, you're playing these games that when comparison videos hit, you'll see like a daylight difference. And my point being this, that I don't know what the specs of the Scorpion New are going to be. Did they announce any of that? I haven't really checked.
I mean, we kind of know. I think Microsoft released specs of the Scorpio, or at least parts of it. Like, we don't. Eurogamer put out a good article today. Like, what does a teraflop mean? But I think they said console's going to have 6 teraflops. Neo's going to have 4. We don't really know what that means, I guess. But you can find them, and they're out. I just don't know what they are because I don't know tech.
Now, the most important thing, like, okay, let me just tell you the one thing which generally game developers go for. Now, this isn't exactly foolproof. You said the example with the Wii, but people kind of look for the install base, like how many people have that system in their home plugged up. Now, it doesn't matter how garbage a console is, but if the install bases are there, funnily enough, let me ask you, what is the best-selling Xbox 360 game of all time?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
I'm guessing it's not going to be Halo because it sounds like you're setting it up to be some surprise game. I'm guessing
you will
maybe a Kinect
get partially
game?
Annoyed by the answer.
It's going to be Just Dance.
Is it Connected Ventures? It's Connected Ventures.
No. Just Dance.
Yeah, I got it right. It's released on the Wii still, so I mean, it has to be popular.
Oh, it's coming to the NX too. It's going to be on 3 concurrent. Oh my god, it's going to be on 3 concurrent console generations: the Wii, the Wii U, and the NX.
Oh my gosh.
Oh boy.
How weird is that?
Okay. Now, you kind of said, like, think of it from the developer's perspective about how this thing is. Graphics aren't just the only thing that each out the processing power and the graphical power. There has to the mechanics and stuff. Now they're getting kind of complex, and there needs to be a lot more processing power kind of designated even to the gameplay aspects. So not all games don't use this, but something like maybe an open world game or later down the line would definitely need that power for the mechanics. Now, they can't exactly cut mechanics. They can reduce the quality of the graphics. They can reduce the polygon count. All of that can be done, but it still has to look kind of identical to the other systems, kind of identical. And all of the systems at least should be in place. Now, if you,
I don't know if I agree on the consumer end. On the developer end, I mean, I think Nintendo can always go out and offer developers money to make games. Like, here's $1 million or whatever, however much it costs to port your game to the NX. But from the consumer standpoint, if you've got the NX out and let's say it's $300, I mean, right now the Xbox One is $279, so $280 pretty much. And Nintendo releases, a $300 console. It's already going to be at least as powerful as an Xbox One money wise, or even a $400 console. And then you've got the Scorpio and the Neo coming out at $700 or $800. I think a lot of people would be willing to say, all right, my games aren't going to look as good. But if Nintendo is able to get those third parties on board, the games are going to functionally be the same. And I save $400 if I'm on the NX.
But like I said, functionally, they might not be the same. And when that happens, there's really no point in ever trying to port your game onto the other system. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, graphically, yeah, sure, you can scale back a lot of the performance from the graphics, but the mechanics might also eke out some of the processing power. Didn't they kind of say that Minecraft couldn't run on Wii U, or am I thinking of something else?
No, Minecraft's on Wii U.
I remember reading something along the lines of the Minecraft wasn't going to be on the Wii U. Oh, well.
No, you're right. They said they weren't going to, they didn't have any interest in bringing it over, but it wasn't that it couldn't run. It's just that they didn't really pursue it.
But it's out now on the Wii U. I don't think there's a single time I can think of when a game has been canceled on the Wii U because they couldn't make it run, other than, Project Cars, I guess, would be the exception.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
But see, games have to be announced to be cancelled, and for it to be announced, it has to be fairly pretty much just about 70% into the development of the game. I think that's a fair point when you kind of go around and start.
Tell that
putting
to
your horn
Nintendo
about
with
the game.
Zelda.
Yeah.
That game was announced like 2 months in the development cycle.
They're like, we have an idea of a thought of a thing. We wrote down it on a scribbly piece of paper in a bar. Here's
some bullet points. We told Iwata we're making our new Zelda game. Here's what we told him.
Yeah.
Iwata ain't here anymore.
Well, no, but back when it was announced.
I'm sorry, that's a dark joke. Respect the man. But that's the point. Like that's generally when you go around and announce the game. Now, if a game is kind of in pre-production and people are seeing if it's possible to even run this on a system, if they see it's not going to be there, why go through the pain of announcing, oh, yeah, we were making a game, but now it's canceled? Generally, studios try to keep the factor that they're canceling something limited. And generally, the announcement is much later, at which point it's pretty hard to cancel a game. That's probably the reason you haven't heard it. And I haven't developed for the Wii U, but a lot of my friends and colleagues have. And from what I heard, they kind of said that it was a very problematic system to work with. They couldn't say anything more because they were under an NDA. And from what I could extrapolate, I think it meant it wasn't very powerful and wasn't very straightforward to work with for whatever they were working on.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's another factor, though, right? Now, I mean, it's not just about how powerful, but like the infrastructure itself. I guess PS3 had a lot of troubles because of its very specialized infrastructure that developers had to specialize to develop for. Ideally, it's not just about the specs. Nintendo's got to make the NX very, I guess, PC-like almost. You'd like to say. Otherwise, it's even more challenging for developers to get it over, right?
Definitely. And generally, I think that's what Sony and Xbox kind of did with their system this cycle around, basically kind of make it very similar to the PC. And from whatever I've heard from people, it's fairly easy to get your stuff in there, which I think is a pretty good thing. Now, that's what I'm kind of hoping for. Like, the system is kind of straightforward to develop and it's powerful enough so that third parties come in. Not everybody will buy a Nintendo console just because of its exclusive. Sure, that's going to be a part of it. But what they should be doing is trying to increase their umbrella of how many people they can get in there. And you might say, hey, they don't need to pander themselves out to people, but you have to pander yourself out to people. Yeah. If you have a big install base, sure, third parties will be happier to come on board because they have this incentive that, hey, there's this huge group of people that are ready to buy our game once we put it out. So it's just simple. It's not a direct thing. It's definitely, and basically with the third parties, I think Wii U kind of screwed over some people with the third parties, like the AAA developers. I'm fairly certain that Ubisoft lost money with the Wii U.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain that they definitely
Just Dance, probably.
Well, yeah, I mean they were releasing numbers and something like 2 or 3% of their revenue is coming from the Wii U. Like, it was very low.
Yeah.
And I think Zombie U, that's the one. Zombie U bombed. I don't think it did well at all on the system.
I doubt it.
I think it did okay, but not what they were looking for. Maybe sold like $500,000.
Yeah. They ended up
keep in mind that's
too, unlike the other systems.
Yeah, at that time it was an exclusive, and they had to kind of work around it and then kind of go with the other systems, right?
Yeah. I mean, they ended up porting it later. What, 2-3 years later? Something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
I doubt that's going to sell very well on other systems with that later release.
No.
Yeah. Now, here's the few things, like I kind of wrote this down, but the Wii U kind of proved some things, to me at least. The Wii was a complete anomaly. The amount of sales it had, nobody expected, and I guarantee you, nobody expected that kind of sales. The analysts didn't expect it, the gamers didn't expect it. I've talked to a lot of people, and if they're really honest, nobody expected the sales it had. And I think they should kind of abandon ship with the Wii name now, because it'll get confusing later if they keep if the Project NX is something like Wii NX or something along the lines. that's just gonna confuse people. It's I think somebody said like it's poison. That name can't be used anymore with the failure that the Wii U was. I don't think that name should be used anymore, and that makes sense. I guess you have to get ahead with a different name, kind of a brand new, fresh image. Like, hey, here's the system that's new and fresh, and we're doing all this great stuff to it. And that was an anomaly. What they did with the motion controls, which were really really not impressive. They have to. Do you think they should still stick with some of the features that Nintendo is kind of known for, like features as in stuff that people call gimmicks, but generally end up selling the system? I'm fairly certain the motion controls sold Wii more than anything else.
Yeah, but gamepad sunk the Wii U.
I think so too. Yeah. And
it's kind of hard to know what's going to set. Man, I just wish they could release, literally just release like a PS4 with the words Nintendo on it that plays Nintendo games. But that's not going to happen. I mean, they keep talking about how this thing's going to be completely new. Ubisoft said it could recapture the Wii audience. I don't know what to even expect.
Oh boy.
But I do agree on the Wii front. I think that name needs to be gone. It's unfortunate though that Nintendo has to come up with something new every time. PlayStation could go PlayStation 1, 2, 3, 4. Xbox is Xbox, but Nintendo doesn't have anything. GameCube, Wii.
Well, they could, but I think it's not part of their philosophy to kind of iterate on the same thing. They're like, well, we want to do something brand new, but unfortunately that also has, the downward effect of they have to burn their last system to the ground and start from scratch every time.
Yeah, which sucks. They have to remarket it. They have to resell it.
Well, they got to make like a whole new operating system that's completely different. It's like, okay, this last thing didn't work. We have to remake it. And same with their digital shops. Like the Wii had their virtual console shop, and then the Wii U, it doesn't really translate over, so we got to make this eShop thing, and we don't even have most of the games from it before. It's a real problem. So unfortunately, I thought they were going to fix that with the Wii U. They didn't, but they better fix it with the NX, because I don't know how much more people can take it.
Man, honestly, I remember when I was actually excited for the Wii U. When they first announced it, I thought the name was stupid. I think we all did. Yeah. When they announced that Wii U at the first press conference, and they did, they had like the EA CEO come up and they showed the reel and all the third-party games and everything. Like they showed I remember I literally screamed watching my computer screen when they announced Batman Arkham City was coming to the Wii U. I'm like, yeah, people are going to take the Wii U seriously now. Because at that time I was don't remember I think I was in high school. And everyone was making fun of Nintendo. It's a baby system, and I saw Batman coming. Oh yeah, people are gonna make fun of me anymore, for playing Nintendo all the time. Nope.
Well, that's the other thing they have against them. They have to change the public perception, not just gamers, but if you go to pretty much anyone else and talk to them about Nintendo, they're like, "What? That thing exists? Like that company is still around?" No one,
and they're not actively trying to change it either. Because maybe it'll change with the theme parks and stuff. It sounds like a step in the right direction. But their mobile games like Meetamo, give me a fucking break. What is that? People look at that and it's like, yeah, Nintendo's off the rails. I don't know what they're doing.
Sorry, just one quick point. So because Nintendo is so divided from third parties and basically the whole industry, they never really get talked about or announced or really discussed anywhere other than Nintendo exclusive forums and whatnot. So the mainstream audience doesn't really have them in their thoughts at all. It's like, oh, this game, yeah, you either get it for PS4 or Xbox. It's like, what about Nintendo? It's like, well, they don't get 90% of these games, so people are going to forget about them. So, just that alone, obviously, part of that is marketing as well. Nintendo doesn't do a whole lot of marketing, but, they're just so divided from the rest of the industry that, everyone else doesn't even take them seriously because they haven't taken themselves seriously, to be honest.
I have a counterpoint to it, and I kind of disagree with both of you on there. The baby system image that Nintendo has, it should stay. And hear me out on this one.
You're a baby.
Don't make that. Now, let me ask you this, and this is a very analytical point. I'm kind of going to personalize this. But basically, what was the first games you played?
Pokemon.
I forget. Probably Super Mario 64 or Mario Kart 64 or something.
I'm a young Pokemon.
Okay. So both of those are baby games. Now what I'm going with...
fucking break.
No, listen to me. And I'm definitely, and by this way, when I'm saying baby games, I don't mean it as an insult. I'm saying games are pretty much all right for even children to play or
accessible.
Adults. Hey, I play Pokemon. I'm not dissing on that. But basically, what I'm kind of saying with the baby system thing is, Nintendo used to be this console that parents kind of had an idea of just because they knew that it was safe for their children. Now, I can guarantee you, today, if there was a smart parent, I don't think he'd be willing to give his kid or something along the lines of Batman, for example, like going with your last example. The baby system, why I don't think it should be killed. What I think would be the best option to do would be doing what comics did in the 90s. Now, comics basically, they said, okay, hey, we don't want to have all this no guts on the cover because there was a huge censorship board back in the day. So what these companies did was they formed an imprint, basically a subsidiary that kind of functioned as its own company, but still took orders from them. So basically made them get around the little blockade. And what they did basically then was they could publish gore and blood and sex and everything they really wanted. That's where DC Vertigo was born. And that's a pretty prolific imprint itself. And what that basically did was when you picked up a Vertigo book, you knew it wasn't safe, but it did not step in with the image of the rest of the company where there was no blood and guts, at least at that point. What I think would be the best thing to do would be kind of divvy up all of the safe or not safe. You can kind of pick a side and kind of make it an imprint like, hey, Nintendo not safe or something along those lines. Kind of make that and say, hey, this is not safe for kid. Everything else is. And I'm not saying they shouldn't focus on the not for kids side. They should absolutely get third parties on board with that. But they also should keep the child market going. Because I remember very recently, I was talking to around 10 or 15 people. I was just kind of taking a poll because my game doesn't really have an age thing. Everybody can play it. Sorry, unintentional plug. But basically, I was talking to them to kind of say, hey, what kind of games do you buy for children? And I think almost all, 9 or 10 of the 15 people I talked to, they said that they are having a hard time finding games for their children. And they don't know what system to get. And that struck me as kind of odd. Like, they don't know what system to get. And I say, oh, what about PS4 and Xbox? And they say, hey, it looks too violent and stuff. And look, maybe Nintendo is losing out on the crowd that kind of built it as the children. Now, we all grew up. We all kind of played Nintendo, grew up. Now we want some grit and blood. But you have to keep in mind, this company started as a company for kids. Games that were child safe, everybody could play it. Pissed a lot of people off, but that's where they kind of cut their teeth in. And I really just think that they should still kind of have a imprint that's just baby games. I think they already have like Treehouse or something. What does that deal with?
It's they do like live streams.
Well, I mean, they're actually like a localization, I think.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I did recounted wrong. But basically, they should have a imprint, or not an imprint, but like a subsidiary that deals with baby games or not baby games, like the not safe games. You can take your pick. I think they'd rather choose one that says, okay, hey, this is not for children kind of side. And they should go with it. Let them peddle choice on what you want. And let there be clear distinction on what is meant for whom. I think the Wii sold for the reason because it was novel and everybody saw the games and stuff. None of them looked brutal. None of them looked like they weren't like basically not safe to play with your family. They were dog shit games, but that's simply it. Just peddle choice. Give the people a choice to play what they want and just move from there.
Yeah,
I feel good.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say I see where you're coming from, and that's pretty smart. Like, don't lose your image that you had of having these accessible games for everyone. That's non-confrontational. But I think the other part of the problem is, and this is anecdotal evidence, so take it with a grain of salt if you want. But I worked for a video game rental company for 5 years, and like kids that were like 7, 8 years old were coming in with their parents, and they're like, "Here, I want to rent like this Call of Duty or Grand Theft Auto or Dead Space, almost, for crying out loud, or Halo or whatever." And I'm like, "Are you sure there's this, and this?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, it's fine. Their friends played." Or the excuse for the GTA one was, I'm like, "You can have sex with a hooker and do this and that," and they're like, "Oh yeah, well we'll make sure he doesn't stop him before he gets to that part." I'm like, "It's open world. There's no way to do that. I know you're bullshitting me." And then another one was trying to buy Dead Space, and I'm like, "You cut people's limbs off and throw them around. Do you really want to go with this?" I forget if the person actually rented it or not. Probably not. But I think that's part of the other problem too. Like, these parents don't really care if their kids are playing, games that are age appropriate for them because their friends are playing it, and they're like, "Well, whatever. We'll just give them what their friends want because we want to shut our kid up." And I'm sure there's plenty of families that are like, well, responsible, and are like, "Here, this is suitable for you." But I don't think that's as big as an audience as it was at one point.
I remember when I got GTA 3, I think, and I brought it home. I'm all happy.
Yeah.
And then my dad sees it, like, what are you carrying in your hands? I'm like, "Hey, it's a game." And I give it to him, and he looks at it and he's like, "This is marked 18 plus. I don't think you're going to play this." "But Dad, I bought it." "No, you can't play it." And I did not get that game until I was 18.
Yeah.
Funnily enough. But the point the point you made about that thing, I worked at a video game store when I was, I think, 15 or 16. I can definitely attest to your thing. There's a lot of irresponsible parenting going around. I remember GTA 4 and basically GTA 4 and its permutations, like the DLC packs and stuff. Those flew off the shelves, and generally the kids who bought the people who bought it were kids and their parents. And I'd say, "I don't think you should give this to your kid," and they go, "Oh no, we're completely okay with it." I can definitely attest to what you're saying.
Yeah, Eli, you wanted to interject with something, and then I guess we'll move on to like a
Yeah,
different
no,
piece.
I think I feel like the reason Nintendo is struggling so much, a part of it is the lack of community. And what I mean by this, you're talking about these 7, 8-year-olds that have PS4 and Xbox Ones. It's because it's easy for them to communicate. Where's the Nintendo community? Where do I talk to other Nintendo fans? If I want to talk to someone about Zelda, what do I do? There's no voice chat. On the console, I can't talk to my friends. None of them play it. I got to go online. So obviously, Nintendo crowd is a little older there. If a kid wants to buy Minecraft and play Minecraft with his friends, get an Xbox One because it's on there, use voice chat to talk with all of his friends, it makes a lot of sense. There aren't any achievements on Nintendo consoles, no voice chat, this, that, or the other. There's no connection, And in Nintendo's pursuit to be this family-friendly, safe space company, it has, as a result, damaged itself because it's lost these people it's tried to attract to other companies who have the features that are required in this day and age to get these people on board. And then these people get older, obviously stick to the platform they invested in, and when they were younger, there's no attachment to Nintendo. And even those that did don't have achievements or a profile or anything like that to really have any meaningful sort of presence on the Nintendo ecosystem.
No, I definitely get where they're basically they kind of traded in functionality just for the fact that it should remain family friendly. Which they could have added functionality while being family friendly, which I think they kind of skimmed out on even. Which I think may be the reason for that. And a lot of people said that the people who grew up playing Nintendo, they're a lot older now. They want some grit and blood, and I completely agree with that. I don't really like playing games which are more family friendly, except if maybe it's a really good game. But what I'm saying is pedal choice. Try to give people as much choice as they can, and that's really it. I think that's what they should be going for right now.
Yeah,
but don't sacrifice. Yeah, no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, that's best way to simplify it. There's a lack of choice because you're stuck with Nintendo only games, which are great, but I mean, when literally Nintendo's like 1% of the industry, and if you buy another console, you have 99% of the industry. It's a pretty easy reason to see why mainstream-wise one is doing better than the other. I mean, there's also other features in it, whatnot, etc. But when someone says, "Hey, the new Skyrim or the new Elder Scrolls is out," it's like, okay, I can buy it on my system, and no one wants to have a system where it's like, oh, well, can I get this? I don't know. Let's see if it's possible. Like, no one's gonna deal with that. Obviously, there's exclusives, but for the majority of it, they don't have to question it. So, from a cost-benefit analysis reason, it's like, well, yeah, go with the one that has the bigger range, right? So,
the thing with the exclusives also is that I know many people who just buy a console as it goes on the generation and generation just to play games like, I don't know, Call of Duty and Titanfall. Titanfall is the recent one, but they never really even bother with the exclusives. I asked one of the people who had a PS4, like, hey, did you play like Uncharted 4 or something? And they're like, hey, I don't even bother with those games. I just play like Call of Duty. So one of those folks. But that's the point. Like, exclusives aren't everything. Also, I think Halo, for example, Halo 5 did not sell that well this time around. And compared to the amount of systems there, what was the final number on that? I haven't seen it in a while.
I don't know. I don't know. I think it's okay.
But I've heard many places that it was a disappointment from the inside. So that might just be it. Exclusives don't sell a console. And if you're just kind of building yourself into this room where you can just push out exclusives and nobody else is trying to support you, you're kind of giving yourself less and less of a choice. Now, if you throw as much choice as you can, you'll probably get a much higher amount of sale with what you're throwing out.
Yeah.
So basically, like what my pointers are for Nintendo to make this a success, and look, it's not guaranteed. This is just as the best any analyst or any game journalist can put out right now, is basically try to make a console that's very, very powerful and then take a beating on the price. Don't sell it for a huge amount. Lose some money, but sell it. Make sure that people buy it and it's comparable with the price of the other consoles. Then you go over to third-party developers. You pay them. You pay them to make games and support it. So what happens after this is it's price low. There's a lot more games on it. A lot more people will buy it. Then go ahead and go to independent developers and say, hey, you're going to get a really good dividend, and here's how you do it. So basically encourage independent development. And then just kind of be nicer to the community. I still don't think they're very nice to like the people who are on YouTube and stuff. Like, does anybody have any knowledge of it? I just heard some here and there murmurs and stuff. I don't know too much about it, but I've heard that their network and stuff isn't really very well made, especially for the payment dividends and stuff like that.
Yeah, the YouTube partnership program is really poor. It doesn't cover. It barely covers any games. Can't even cover a game like Smash Brothers. The terms can basically change on a whim. You don't get a whole lot of money. It wasn't really very good. And even if you're on your own, Nintendo might claim your video. They won't remove it, but they can claim money on it. And I mean, it's pretty damning when you have someone, PewDiePie, literally the biggest channel on YouTube, saying like, I'm not going to play a Nintendo game on this channel, and Nintendo's not actively going after him because he has sold people on games before, and it's kind of ridiculous. But
absolutely, and like here's the sad reality of what's happening on the internet now, especially with like written journalism. It's not making as much as it used to. Like, the ads are kind of drying up, and more and more eyeballs are towards people who are YouTubers. For example, most of the independent games now don't even try to go behind journalism sites to kind of get a review and stuff. They just send it to their YouTubers because a semi-prominent YouTuber can probably give them a lot more exposure than a written post can. And that's kind of the reason why most websites are kind of going downhill with their stuff. So basically, YouTube should be their best friend at this point. They should be saying, hey, if you play this game, we'll give you some merchandising money or something like that. And just completely lay off of the things that basically stop people from playing it. The more people play it, the more eyeballs are on it, the more sales it's going to translate to.
Yeah. They do have a select handful of people that they'll work with, but for everyone else, they don't really bother with. But I think we should move on to like one more piece of news discussion and then probably wrap it up. There's a Zelda Breath of the Wild patent, and what was different about this than any other game patent from Nintendo is that it lists cartridges. So usually, if it's on like if it's a Wii U game, it'll just list, I don't know, like digital units, and retail discs or whatever, like what the different formats it comes on. And then for 3DS, it'll list that it comes on cartridges. And then if it's on one game's on both, let's say, I don't know, Smash Brothers or the Sonic and Mario Olympic games, it'll list both discs, digital and cartridges. But in this case, for Breath of the Wild, it was discs and cartridges, and we know it's coming to the Wii U and the NX. And the Wii U obviously doesn't use cartridges, it just uses discs and digital. But the NX, we still don't really know what it's about. So people are suspecting that the NX will actually use cartridges based off of the rumor we had like a couple of weeks or a month ago or whatever it was, and just the whole hybrid system thing. So I don't know. Do you think this could really work?
Yes.
Explain. Before you go on, I'll just explain my one point. The reason I could see it having a problem is pretty much just the price of it. Because if you try to buy like an SD card or whatever, it's like you could buy a spindle of 25, 50 gigabyte Blu-ray discs for I forget how much, and to get the same space on an SD card is literally like 10 times the price. It's like for every one SD card you get, you can get like 10 to 12 Blu-ray discs. So, I mean, SD cards are faster and less load times, and it's harder to break because you don't have to worry about scratching.
What's the advantage?
The advantage would be that you could pop the cartridge in on the NX, and then it would save your save file, I guess, to the cartridge, and then you could just bring it over to the handheld.
That's stupid.
There's other advantages too, like cartridges, like you said, SD cards. They now have, at least the higher tier ones, they have a higher storage capacity and a way faster read speed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a better storage medium. Now, the only concern there, like he said, is the price. But I think they're partnering with some producer of all this stuff, like the guys who produce some kind of SD cards. I think they're kind of partnering with someone there. I think I read something about it. I'm not sure the name of the company, but I'm pretty sure I read something about this.
Okay, the one who makes the 3DS cards, I think. I forget the name of them. They might be with them. But how much cheaper could... Obviously, what we pay at retail and what companies pay behind doors are two different things. But even if someone, they can get a deal, how much of a deal can they actually get? That's my only concern. Because sure, they could get a deal on an SD card, but how much of it can they get off to make it to make this whole thing worth it?
Okay. Now I'm going to go off on a little bit of tangent, and this might just completely be wrong because this is just kind of a hunch, but I'll make it speedy. But basically, here in Asia, at least, a lot of the companies and stuff, they're kind of doing this thing called the e-wallets. Basically, you don't need to carry real money. You have this card. Basically, you kind of put money in there. It's not exactly a bank account because you don't really need proof, but it's a lot speedier than real cash. You don't need to have to carry change and stuff.
Sorry, could you repeat yourself? You cut out for like 30 seconds.
Holy shit. Okay, that might be the internet. But basically, where did I cut out exactly?
You were explaining different
cards.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
Okay, so basically the cartridges and stuff. Okay, now did I mention the Asian part where it's kind of the e-wallet and stuff like that? Okay, so basically what these cards and stuff are doing are they're kind of removing the need for cash in your wallet. And when Nintendo entered China, I think this was back in the day, but basically what they did was they had this cartridge system, and now you'd go to these stores, and this didn't need to have to be even video game stores, and you'd go to these stores and they'd have this booth, and you just plug it in, you'd pay through somewhere, and you'd load the game you wanted in it. You could basically get a game at a convenience store, really. Now, what that console didn't go anywhere. It kind of lived its life, then kind of died, and China now has lifted the ban on video games, so video games are back again. But basically, that system, I think that could be a good idea to go there. They could maybe have something like, oh, hey, now convenience stores have games, and I see that really boosting sales in that regard. I don't know if that's what they're going to do, but this is my kind of theory. This is where my money's at.
So building off of that, here's an interesting idea. What if, say, they use NFC, and the way it would work is, every game could be downloaded, digitally. And I guess this is more towards a digital future, but if we're talking about cards, and then you could buy a cart in a store, and every time you tapped it to NFC or whatever, it would unlock the license for the game for that time. It seems like, and then you could resell that, and that would kind of, of course, this is kind of fantastical. I don't think this is actually going to happen. Just an interesting idea, but I feel like it could be one way to move to a more digital future now that Nintendo's actually kind of embraced NFC, and it could be a way that people could actually resell their digital games. I don't know.
I don't personally see reselling of digital games to be possible, though.
But
everything else, yep.
Well, I guess what I was saying is, you'd buy, say, an NFC stick or something like that. That would essentially, it would unlock the rights for the game, and you would just tap it down, to I guess download the game and then to play it. But it would be a way to sell, because EU already allows you to resell games, I think, digitally, or there's something like that. It was a court decision. I don't know what I'm saying, but the point is, I think that you could move that direction if you start talking about these cars that you can just tap or whatever, make things really quick. It could perhaps even be something that just unlocks a license through NFC.
Could be. And here's the thing: Nintendo had great success with things that are related digitally. I'm talking about the Amiibos, of course, but they kind of know what this technology is, and they could really, really benefit from this. I really think it would be a good way to move forward.
Okay, so my Skype just crashed, and we kind of forgot where we were, but we pretty much finished what we were saying anyway, so I think we'll end it there for this week. I'm Matt. You can find me at The Mango Viking on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Eli, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Paul Salon, and you can find my writing, including my new Tokyo Mirage Sessions review, at Nintendo Enthusiast.
Cool. And I was going to say thanks to our special guest Harsh for coming on. I know the time differences isn't exactly perfect, but thanks for coming on. And where can people find you and your game?
Oh, thanks for having me. I needed to tell all this stuff. I didn't have a platform to. But yeah, you can find me on my Twitter, and my handle is TheGameDev, but the H and the E is transposed in the, so it's TheGameDev. So just follow me there. That's where I generally post all of my stuff, and stay tuned for my game. That's going to come out soon.
What's the name of your game again?
Isometric Dawn.
Isometric Dawn. All right, so wherever you're listening, you can find us on Just Another Castle on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, iTunes, Podomatic, and IGN. You can leave us questions and comments. So we'll see you next time, and leave gaming to Nintendo.